Hey, everybody, and welcome to We Watch TV. It is the podcast about the TV that we watch. I am Daniel, she is Hope, and this is a very special supercut. If you're new here and you're not familiar with what a supercut is, it's where we take a bunch of segments from our various podcast episodes about a specific show and jam them all together into one super episode.
And this one is all about Suits, a Suits supercut. Talk about alliteration.
Yeah, and so this supercut's a little bit different than our others as well because it's not just one season of the show, but it is the entirety of the show. We talked about it over the course of 2024, starting around April, went into the summer, and finished it up. All 9 seasons. They will be contained within this episode.
There were 9 seasons of Suits?
Yeah. Don't you remember? Because right after we got done with season 8, they happened to drop season 9 on Netflix randomly
really?
out of nowhere.
9 of them? Why was I thinking it was only 6?
It was 9.
Probably, I don't think, maybe the Prison Mike era was in 6. I can't remember.
Prison Mike was a long, arduous situation.
Anyway.
But anyways, why are we doing this?
That was like a jinx anyway. We are doing this because Suits LA has since premiered. The first episode dropped on Sunday, February 23rd. There are 13 episodes according to IMDb. And it will be airing on NBC, Suits LA. The original Suits aired on USA, and then I believe it did grow in popularity with Meghan Markle, marrying Prince Harry. A lot of people kind of tuned in, but I feel like it really blew up when Suits dropped on Netflix. And it actually, at one point, I think was one of the most streamed shows on Netflix. And that's got to be a reason why they had that almost like re-energized success and why we are getting a Suits LA spinoff.
Yeah, for sure. So if you haven't seen Suits or you have seen Suits and you want to kind of know what the original series was about going into Suits LA, check us out here in this episode.
And there were some highs, there were some lows through our journey of Suits, which you're about to find out. Before we get into that, though, are you excited that we're going to see Harvey Specter? He is in the trailer for. So we have not watched. We are recording this episode in the past, so we have not seen the new episode yet. But we know Harvey Specter, one of the original characters, is going to be in it. Are you excited to see him?
Sure, I'm excited to see Harvey. They better get Lewis to show up at some point.
Missed opportunity. If Suits LA gets more than one season and we don't see Louis Litt, I think it's almost more important to see Louis Litt than it is Mike Ross.
And I think you could let Lewis be full because he's not that he's only like he would only be popping in for like one episode, maybe even like a 5-minute cameo. You could allow him to be full powered annoying Lewis.
Yes.
and then he goes because you don't have to see him anymore.
The Lewis that we know and love. I think if it gets multiple seasons, there's a high chance that we would see Donna, Lewis, and Mike Ross. Probably not Rachel Zane.
They should make a Royals joke about Prince Harry at least.
Maybe. Anyway, let's kick things off. Our Suits journey took place in episode 64 of the podcast, and this episode was entitled Birthday Suits. I believe we started watching Suits around yours truly's birthday. What a journey. But we have been in a bit of a lull till at least May with shows. So we finally started a new yet old show. This show has been around since 2011. It originally, I believe, aired on the USA Network. Who watches shows on the USA Network? And I think it got a little more popular because a member of the royal family is one of the leads in it, at least until she left because she did get married to Prince Harry. Are they still considered part of the royal family even though they left?
I don't know, and I don't care.
We're not sure on that, but that show is Suits. Suits is something that I have been wanting to watch for a while, and it's actually had, because now that it's on Netflix, that's given it another resurgence.
It was like number 1 in streaming ratings for when it first came out on Netflix. I think it was in the fall. It popped out, and yeah, it was like everybody who'd been wanting to watch it but wasn't willing to either get the DVDs or find it anywhere. I don't even know if it was streaming anywhere else. Everybody's like, oh, it's on Netflix. Okay, we'll just watch that.
Yeah. So it's kind of had a resurgence so much that I've been hearing like rumors, not that they're going to reboot with this cast, but they're going to do another show like in its name. I don't know how much of the truth on that. It's just stuff that I've been reading about. We'll see. I had started watching the first episode of Suits like back in the fall, and then we actually had other stuff to watch, and
Imagine that.
kind of put it on the back burner. And then finally, I was like, Daniel and I each gave each other a challenge to try to find a show, and I'm like, we got to go with Suits. It's got 7 seasons. They might not be 20 some episodes each season, but at least I think this season 1 had like 11 episodes possibly for season 1.
I think it was more than 11. I think it was like 12 to 14, somewhere in that realm.
I thought it was 11 here.
It's a good episode. It's a good amount. It's a nice amount. It gives you a nice weighty season of content to watch where you get to know the characters and it doesn't feel rushed. Like it doesn't feel like a 9 episode show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's got a pretty big cast of characters. So if you had
12 episodes
okay.
from season
So
1.
if you had this show with the cast of if you had this show and you were only able to do like 8 episodes, you'd have to cut somebody. Like some of the storylines would have to be cut from the characters who are in the show. It's just too much. But when you get a longer season, 12, I wonder if the next seasons have even more episodes. You get a little bit more time to just spend with the characters and give them personality.
I just like it that it's as much as great as Severance was, which this is in no way, shape, or form compared to the greatness of Severance. As great as it was, though, getting into Severance, I only had 1 season.
Yeah.
I just like that I have a nice show to fall back on. I'm going to say Suits in this, even though the premise is entirely different from it, it's giving me Blacklist vibes in that it does have that each episode so far, at least in the first season. I don't know if the drama goes off the rails. I know that I don't want to, this time we are the ones that don't want to be spoiled. I know some tidbits of stuff that happened because of real life events. But other than that, I really don't know much about like the plots and the ongoings of these characters. But so far, we have that episodic format with an overarching theme. And I kind of enjoy that. So basically Suits, Daniel's like, what is Suits about? And I was like, it's about Barney Stinson from that terrible show How I Met Your Mother. Suit up. You kept asking me what Suits, and I'm like, I was like, wait a minute, you've never heard of like the premise of Suits? You really didn't know, did you? Even though you knew the show, you didn't know what it was about. That it was
I'd
about
only
lawyers.
ever heard of the show.
I think you were getting it confused with Franklin and Bash, which is also about lawyers.
I
The one
have
with Zach Morris.
Zach Morris on it.
Yeah.
I was about to say.
I think you kept getting that, and I was like, that's not the same show. It's not. It's not.
I don't think I was making that confusion, but
I thought you were.
okay.
But we've got Harvey Specter, lawyer, and then Mike Ross.
Cool guy lawyer.
Cool guy. I love it. Don't speak ill of Harvey. He's the best. We have Mike Ross. So essentially, Harvey, at the beginning it opens, he's wanting to hire somebody. He's really unimpressed with all the candidates he's gotten. I think they make a point at this law firm to only hire Harvard people. Mike Ross he's a very smart guy, photographic memory. I feel like they said the reason why he didn't end up going to law school was because he had to take care of his grandma or something like that. I was half asleep when I watched the very first pilot. So basically he has not he did not actually graduate from Harvard, but he has taken and passed the LSATs many times for people because that's kind of how he was making money. As they were paying, people would pay him, he would go take it. Kind of reminds me of that like college. They called it like the varsity scandal that Aunt Becky from Full House was in several years ago. Apparently, people actually were doing what he was doing in the real world, and they got in trouble for it. But anyway, he does enough. He impresses Harvey. Harvey knows the shtick. Decides to hire him anyway, so we've got that secret. We have Louis Litt. That's one of their Louis Lip, right? Or Lit. Louis something.
Litt.
Louis is annoying. I've been told that Louis ends up being kind of awesome, and I don't know. Are you thinking he's awesome in the way that people like Emily Gilmore, who was still kind of a crappy character but fun?
Yeah, I think that's the case.
He's giving Pete Campbell from Mad Men vibes
I don't think he's likable. He's not going to be likable in the sense of having a heel turn and
I don't know, maybe
being a good guy. I think it's going to be likable in the sense that he becomes less of a threat to Mike and more of just
and Harvey.
A pain in the butt.
He's very jealous of Harvey.
Yeah, he is.
But I think at the same time, though, it's not just jealousy. I truly think he wants to be accepted by Harvey as almost a friend, colleague. And but when Harvey has tried in season 1 to even do an olive branch and recognize Louis gets in his own head.
Yeah.
Like I said, he gives me, if you guys are familiar with Mad Men and the character of Pete Campbell, kind of you like him sometimes, then you want to strangle him. That's how Louis, at least, we have finished season 1 of Suits, if you can believe that.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about today.
So right now, Lewis, at least the way he's presented in season 1, which we have completed at the time of this recording, I sometimes want to strangle him. Other times I'm amused by him. So that's kind of where I'm at with his character. What about you?
I am mildly entertained by him when he comes around the corner and gives that, excuse my language, that shit-eating grin.
I just want to punch him.
It is mildly entertaining to me. I do get annoyed with him still when he comes in and actually screws something up, or in the case of what you talked about with that one case that he and Harvey had to work on, where they did a good job and actually accomplished it, but then he, on his own, like without really investigating further, misunderstood what was happening and thought Harvey was taking all the credit for it, which wasn't happening.
No.
So he annoys me in that place, but I think I can certainly see over the course of, what'd you say, 6 or 7 seasons?
7 seasons.
I can see how he becomes an entertaining character. I don't know that I would go so far as to say likable, but entertaining, adds value to the show.
He gives nerd energy, like he's always wanted to be accepted by the cool kids, and he sees Harvey and even Jessica, who is like the main person at the firm. And I think sometimes he does get in his own head about it, and I don't know. I could see Lewis going being a villain, but having an epiphany, coming back. I don't know. I'm excited. So, like I said, you guys, we do a spoiler podcast. This is a show that's been off the air for a while. We just finished a season that aired in 2011 that we really don't know much about. The only things that I truly know from a spoiler perspective is that Meghan Markle, who plays Rachel Zane, at one point is no longer going to be on the show because she married Prince Harry and had to retire from acting.
It would be really funny if they just worked that into the plot of the show. I'm sure they didn't, but that would be really funny.
I don't think they did.
Can we return to the photographic memory of Mike for a second?
Yes.
Because it's my understanding this is like a real thing that real people have.
Lexi Gray had a photographic memory of Grey's
That's not
Anatomy.
a real person.
I know she's not a real person. But yeah, it's like a thing that I think certain people have.
I feel like sometimes I have a photographic memory.
And
the only problem is... The only problem is mine is one of those cameras from the early 1800s where you got to stand still for 5-10 minutes to get the picture taken.
You have to go into your mind palace. You're not good with labels, but you do remember random weird stuff.
Yeah, really random weird stuff.
The way both Daniel and I have talked about that, we've never really been the type that study. Sorry if that offends people. I will read over my notes the day before, the night before an exam. That's how I was in school, but I never really I didn't really have to study. It just to me, if you study a week in advance for something, my brain would just be mush because I do not have a photographic memory in that way. Mike's photographic memory is so good. He remembers his friend Trevor's social security number that he saw one time when they were 12 years old.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I think that Mike is intelligent and that photographic memory enhances his intelligence, but it doesn't. I think Harvey is just as smart, but in a different way. He does not have a photographic memory. They do work very well together. I'm a little concerned that at some point we'll have the ultimate breaking of the band happen that I hate in shows, because I feel like right now the key relationship is Harvey and Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
I know.
It has to happen.
So
it's got to happen to test their relationship, and ultimately they'll come back and be even stronger.
Course. I hope so.
But it has to happen. It's just required of every show like this, where you have that kind of mentor-mentee situation. They've got to have that moment. And Harvey's been mad at Mike a few times, but I don't think we've had that moment yet where...
He almost seems mad at him from a brother thing. He still ultimately respects him. And Mike's been mad at Harvey, too.
Yes.
Because sometimes Harvey is the classic... Harvey reminds me almost of Damon Salvatore from The Vampire Diaries, as in he talks a big game about how he's not emotional, he doesn't care, when I think he cares a lot more than what people think. And that's the energy he gives me. Donna is my favorite character from Suits so far. I figured she would be. I love Donna. I want more of Donna in the upcoming seasons. She's funny. She's smart. She's witty. I feel like any scene Donna's in, she steals every scene. What do you think about Donna?
Yeah, I like Donna.
I love Donna.
I think she's a good character. I like that one redheaded, curly-haired associate that's just always scared of
Lewis.
He
had blonde hair. He's red.
Maybe it's blonde. It's like a strawberry blonde. Yeah, kind of, and he's just terrified of Lewis, and Lewis knows it. I think it would be funny if they continue to just have him around as a side character every couple episodes and just torture him.
And Lewis is always snapping
I enjoy those kind of characters, and that's why I like shows like this where, again, you've got enough time to kind of screw around and
Yeah.
have those kind of interactions.
What do you think of Jessica? She gives like woman commands any room she's in energy. Like she's tall, she's gorgeous, she scares me. Like, what do you think of? I don't think we've really gotten to know the character of
not
Jessica
yet.
a lot, but that's my assessment of her. Very powerful, strong woman. She gives me 7 of 9 energy
Oh, good
from like
Star
a
Trek reference.
commanding of the room. Like, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree. I
What-
like her character. I would be interested to know more about her. I think, spoiler alert, everybody, we had to watch the first episode of season 2.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about it because we're going to just kind of compact this one into seasons. But she does get a little. We're seeing a different side of her at the beginning
Yeah.
of season 2 because she's a little
Still
worried.
scary.
So still scary, but in a different way. So
Commanding way. What about Mike? So far, I feel like the character of Mike Ross has chemistry with almost every female, except for the female that he's actually dated, which is Jenny, the blonde girl, which was the ex-girlfriend of his best friend or something like that. I feel like they had the least amount of chemistry. I think he and Meghan Markle's character, she plays Rachel Zane. I think they have great chemistry. He had good chemistry with the girl that was hacking, even though that wasn't romantic. I
yeah,
feel like
I
he
mean-
even has good chemistry with Jessica. I'm like, he had good chemistry with like the lady that he was representing about like, which I think that was season 2, right?
Yeah.
A plot point.
It's like
I'm
every
does this man
episode-
have good chemistry with every character.
because it's an episodic show, so they bring in
Yeah.
a new kind of cast of supporting
Great
characters.
chemistry with Harvey from
every
our friendship
episode.
wise. Like, what do you think about?
And
like,
he
Mike?
just every girl he sees is just like rizzing him up.
I guess, but he's not. You would think that Harvey would be the more of like the rizzing one, but Mike just has, I don't know, just that cute like soft boy charm. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you like him and Rachel together? I do, even though they're not technically together yet as of season 1.
I could take it. I could leave
I
it.
like Rachel,
fine.
the character of Rachel, a lot because she said one of the reasons why she is a paralegal in the current season that we have watched is she's not a good like standardized type
Yeah,
of test
right.
taker. Now, when I say I didn't really have to study, I mean like normal exams, but standardized test, I cannot stand it. Which I don't know. Did the LSAT? Do they have a time limit? Probably.
Probably.
I
yeah.
could never like the time limit of like the ACT and stuff would always get in my head. I scored in the 90th percentile in the national French exam. So apparently for me to just knock it out of the park on a standardized test, give it to me in another language. I don't know. Maybe it's because it like means less. And I was always get really like, I'm not saying I was bad at taking tests, but I would get extremely panicked, which I think is the type of test take. She just gets really panicked.
You did
before an
exactly.
exam.
You do exactly what they showed Rachel do in the show when they were practicing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that you set your first
I
instinct is
overanalyze,
good, but
yeah.
then you go back and you go back and you go back and you think about it. And
Overanalyze everything.
if you would just make it a hard, fast rule, whatever I think 1st is what I'm putting down and go on, and Mike makes tells her the perfect thing. You're trying to go for 100%
You're trying to be
perfection,
perfect.
and you're never going to. No one does, because he said I was in the 99th
Yeah.
percentile. I never got to the 100th because there is no 100th.
And
Nobody
that
gets it all
scene,
perfect.
Like spoke to me because literally, for me in school, I always wanted to get a perfect score. I always wanted to be the best, and I think that's why I did overanalyze. And I remember when I took my ACT and then I did like an ACT prep course to see if I could get my scores even better, and they got way better. That's because in the main theme of that prep course wasn't so much on the materials, it was go with your first instinct, which is like the opposite of how I am because I want to overthink anything. You think the answer is A, it's probably A. So I that's why I really like Rachel. I think people, fans from what I've seen, are mixed on her character in terms of if they like her or not, because I don't think she's your typical sweet, nice lead. Like she
No.
kissed him first.
Yeah,
I
And
like
She knew he was
yeah.
with that
Yeah.
other girl.
I like my characters to not be the perfect woman. I like them to have flaws. So I like Rachel. That's what.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me one way or the other right now. So I do want to talk about the Leo meme.
Yes.
And specifically because I mentioned
Yes.
earlier, it's an episodic show. It's a lawyer show. So they're bringing a lot of new actors in every episode as supporting characters for the suits
Guests.
that they're into, guests. And so I'm going to just throw it out there that the negative to this show is if you live with a person like Hope who just legitimately she points at the TV
I have
every
to
time she
know.
sees an actor who
What's
she
even-
knows from something else. And it's happening 2 to 3 times an episode.
More than one episode, I'm like, oh, that guy was in this show. Oh, that's the girl from Timeless. Oh, that's the guy from Office Space. It really, and you actually did it too.
I did
there
it
was
twice.
A guy from Star
I did it
Trek.
twice. There were 2 Star Trek characters that showed up.
Two? Oh yeah, there were two.
Yeah. 2 that showed up in season 1, one from Voyager and one from Enterprise. And so, I'm guilty. I did it twice. You did it 200 times.
Yes, I do it every episode. In fact, one of the side characters on the show, I think his name's like Kyle. I can't remember. I'm like, oh, that guy's in Virgin River and was in that Hallmark movie we watched where they had to dress as Santas, and then he replicated the girl's house that was on her wallet. That was her vision home out of gingerbread. And yes, that's exactly how fast I talked when I said
And
it.
you say you don't have a photographic memory.
And I'm like, Daniel, do you remember this guy? And you're like, I could care less that he was in a Hallmark movie. And then finally you were like, yes, Hope, I remember the Hallmark movie, because we had to stop, pause it, and I had explained you the entire plot.
Do you want to know a secret?
Of said Hallmark movie. What?
I didn't remember him. I just told you I
You
did to get
remember
you to
him
shut
now,
up.
though, right?
Yes.
I'm going to make you watch that movie again.
No, you're not.
I don't remember the name of that one. Remember, they wore the Santa outfits, Daniel, and they ran into each other, but they didn't recognize each other because they had the beards on, and then they were chasing each other.
That wasn't the
all
pencil
over
guy,
town.
right?
No. That's
All
what
right.
the pencil guy is Andrew Walker. That you think looks like a pencil.
Hey, everybody. Andrew Walker looks like a pencil. Next
This
time
show
you see
has
him.
also made some fantastic pop culture references. We've had
has.
Top Gun references, Rocky references, Star Trek references.
You made the Star Trek. I just need to. I just
yeah.
need to stop for a second and brag on my wife for a second.
I did.
Harvey
that.
is describing something to Mike,
It's for their mock trial about how to beat it.
and you go, oh, it's like the Kobayashi Maru from Star Trek.
Yeah.
And then what does Harvey do?
Immediately said it after I said it out loud, and I wanted to just go jump out my window. But I knew what that was because Friends referenced that. That's an iconic thing of Star Trek, even if people haven't watched. I feel like that's how cemented
let me
Star
ask you a
Trek is in
question.
pop culture.
Up until about 3 or 4 years ago, who was your favorite Star Trek captain?
Picard.
Who's your favorite Star Trek captain?
I'm still going to say Picard because that's
Who's your
my
favorite
dog's
Star
name.
Trek captain?
Okay. I only was familiar with
Who's your favorite Star Trek captain?
It's still Picard.
Okay.
If I ever get the show with 7 of 9, she would be my favorite captain. Ha ha.
Okay.
Ha.
All right.
But yeah, I made that reference before. We also got a Frasier reference.
Yeah, we did. Like a deep Frasier reference.
Deep Frasier reference. They were like, shut up, you sound like Frasier's brother. And it was to Lewis, and Lewis was like, hey, Niles Crane was like, and I'm
Misunderstood,
like, oh.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, Lewis, I finally agree with you, because I don't know about you, Niles was my favorite from Frasier. He made the show.
I mean, I love Martin. Martin was definitely my favorite, but I definitely, like, the show's named Frasier, but really, honestly, the linchpin of the show was Niles.
So yeah, that's our take on Suits. We're enjoying it. I don't think it's the greatest show I've ever seen, but it's doing the job to get me through.
Yeah.
Do you still stand by what you said about it after you watched 3 episodes? I think you like it more now.
I like it more than I made that comment, but I still stand by the idea that I guess I would akin this. Okay, I'm going to go deep here for a second. This show came out on USA Network in 2011, and I feel like I'm watching a time capsule between the way TV used to be, just network shows, and the way it kind of is now in the streaming world.
If it was
and
on streaming, we would hear F-bombs.
Yes,
but
this
totally
show
don't.
is very much like the proto mixture of those two things. And so I guess after watching this show, and it's just so easy to watch, and I'm just sitting there, I don't have to really think about anything because they put it all out there right in front of you. You're right. If it's supposed to be a mystery, they keep it a mystery until it's not supposed to be a mystery anymore, and then they slam it into your face of what's happened. And I suppose if this show is kind of coming off of what the CSIs and the Law and Orders kind of are, I've never watched those shows. I can understand why those are so popular, just because I can just sit here and disengage
And just enjoy it.
And so it's not an insult. I don't mean it. What I said was if anybody's watched The Hangover 2, and Stu's soon to be father-in-law describes him as some sort of very bland rice meal that they feed old people and babies.
Like to say that I do like rice.
I was using that as an analogy to describe my opinion on it.
Terrible. horrible.
It's a little bit better than that, but it's just like
You've enjoyed it more. You enjoyed it more as it progressed.
I can just sit here and just float through it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to be really engaged. I'm not on the edge of my seat like I was at the end of Severance or anything like that.
But it grew on you.
It has grown on me.
It got better. Yes. And I feel like this could be the show, though, that your first couple seasons are great and then it starts to lose steam.
I could see that for sure.
I hope not, but I'm excited to watch more.
Yeah, me too. We continued the conversation in episode 66, Hot Ghoul Summer. All right, well, next up on the agenda here is we have continued to watch Suits. We have completed season 3 and are
season 2.
I'm sorry. We have completed season 2 and are like midway through season 3?
I feel like we probably watched what would have been the season 3 like mid-season finale.
Yeah.
So about 2.5.
This show confuses me. Because,
this show's the Leo meme show, though.
Yes, it is. But it does. The seasons are structured really funny in that it does like a mid-season break, and then it has a false finale.
Well,
because they do
season 1 didn't do that, though.
Well, season 2 did, and season 3 is doing it.
It's because I think season 1 didn't have as many episodes. Yeah. And when I looked at the dates on season 2, because we were confused about this, like the show I think premiered like in that summertime, then it took a break and didn't come back till like January. So I think when they got more episodes ordered, they broke it up that way.
Right.
But still called it like season 2.
Yes.
And I believe, that's what I feel. I feel like we probably got to the mid-season finale of 3, which we have just finished.
Yeah, but like each of the seasons, like the Daniel, like season 2, so that's the main season we're talking about here. The Daniel Hardman
Daniel was the villain.
Lasts the entire season, except it seems to be solved like with 2 episodes left to go. And then suddenly he's back in the last episode and then they get rid of him again finally. It's like the old horror trope of, they always lunge, right? Yeah. And it seems like season 3 did it again.
I did not like him as a villain.
No.
At all. That guy was so, and which I guess is mission accomplished, to be annoying.
Sure.
Let's see. So we really, our characters, I feel like this show does advance characters and they reel them back in because they want to kind of keep people, which if you think about it though, that's probably the way people act in real life anyway though. Like,
I guess.
Like a lot of people stay, centered in who they are. Not everybody has this like magnificent character growth constantly. People do grow and change, but I feel like this show keeps it almost more grounded. Like you'll have a little bit of moment of clarity, then you kind of pull the character back, and that's who I could definitely say about the character of Louis Litt, who when we last left off, we weren't loving him in season 1. He still gives me Pete Campbell vibes, who I ended up liking on Mad Men. That's a Mad Men reference, but I do like Louis now. Even though Louis gets on my nerves sometimes. And, like, I'll have an episode where I love Louis and his cat, his love of cats. And then, like, he'll just make me so mad. But at the end of the day, Louis just wants to be accepted. He wants to be with the cool kids. Has your opinion of Louis changed?
Yeah, they definitely softened him a little bit more in season 2. He was very much an antagonist in season 1.
Well, he was a part of the antagonist in season 2, though, because he was going along with Daniel.
Yes, he was. But I think you kind of got to see
why he went along with Daniel
in that. And even though you were like, oh, why are you making these decisions? You were almost rooting for him not to make those decisions. Where in season 1, he was really just a heel.
You kind of understood like why he was behaving the way he did more in season 2. But then we've got to have like more like humorous little bits about him, like the whole cat thing again.
Some of what they're doing with him is almost too humorous to the point where it's a little odd that we're fighting about this cat.
Well, and that's a storyline from season 3, and I think they gave him that because his storyline in season 2 was so heavy. But where we left off on season 3, I think we're about to get
he's
about
to find out about Mike.
Yes. So the premise of the show, if you guys don't know, or go listen to our previous episode, it's about lawyers, and one of the lawyers, Mike Ross, he's not an actual lawyer. He didn't go to Harvard. They hired him anyway. Now we've got Harvey always knew. He knew the whole time. Donna knew. Their boss, Jessica, knows, and she kind of like lords it over everybody. Rachel knows because now Rachel and Mike are officially together at this point. Those two have been a seesaw, and you can complain about that in a minute.
Oh, I will.
And then where we left off in season 3, Louis just kind of found out that Mike did not go to Harvard.
He found something out. He doesn't. I don't think he has.
He's going to be suspicious.
Yeah, he doesn't have concrete evidence yet. But why is Mike Ross's file not in those Harvard archives?
And I've been waiting for this because, yes, the premise of the show, that's what it is. But as they hire more, because they hire from Harvard.
Only Harvard.
Exclusively. Well, they
Yeah.
might be changing that for
Yes.
Rachel's character. But Rachel, the character of Rachel, played by
yes.
Meghan Markle. Had to clarify that. But it's been like, the whole time, like, I've been thinking, I'm like, well, somebody, like, people, it's not that big of a school. I'm like, at some point, this is going to come up as a thing. Like, Mike, did you guys know Mike? Like, it's going to become an issue. And I know maybe I need to take off my realist brain and put my Fallout brain in with the video game needle thing, and that's the way I should just watch the show for pure entertainment. But it's hard not to nitpick that little point. So Mike and Rachel, we'll get back to those two. They are together. They sort of got together at the end of season 2 in a way that you did not like.
I hated the finale of season 2.
Things are still a little rocky, but now I'd say they're together and pretty good now. But go on and tell us why you didn't like it.
So they had this season and everything went the way it was going to go, and the crescendo to the entire storyline is that Mike finally comes clean to Rachel.
Yes.
And he tells her, and they're in the file room at work, and she's mad, and she should be mad because the whole story with her is that she did not get accepted to Harvard.
Yes, which I do find a little unbelievable considering her dad's a powerful guy and they're rich, but I digress.
I agree. Well, okay. Yes, but it doesn't seem to me like he was very willing to step in and use his clout to push that ball.
And she didn't really ask
And she
him
didn't
to.
really want him to. So
Anyway.
I don't necessarily have a problem with her not getting into Harvard. But she has an absolute legitimate reason to be mad at Mike. First of all, he's breaking the law, and now he's let her in on that, which if she doesn't turn him in, she is complicit in that crime.
And he's kind of strung her along.
He's strung her along, on and off. It's been this whole thing. And so then he tells her the truth in the file room, and then instead of her slapping him and getting mad and walking out, they have a gratuitous sex scene, and then it goes to end credits for the season.
Daniel, that's where you forget that you are watching a drama that both men and women watch. I knew that I didn't think it was a little much, I'll say.
It was a little much.
It lingered a little bit. Like, I would have been uncomfortable if I was an actor having to do that scene. But that's why I'm not an actor. But I think it was the classic, like, I'm so mad at you. But, like, now, like, I think she's kind of known that something was up with him the whole time. He had been really, like, cagey about their relationship, not getting into a relationship with her. And I think she's just felt an off vibe. So I think in that moment, like, knowing the truth, she was angry, but she was also like, okay, it makes sense. And I think she had just been rejected from Harvard, so she was just going through a lot of stuff. And it was a kind of heat of the moment, like,
and having sex
release.
on the copy machine is the answer to all these problems.
It was on, like, bookshelves.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I found it distasteful. I did not like it. I did not care for it. I thought, to a certain extent, it was a betrayal of the character that we had set up for her so far.
That's a very, like, proper word, distasteful. It wasn't the best. I think it would have been better if they had kissed, if she had smacked him, they had made out a little bit.
Yeah.
Then she stormed off.
I could have accepted that.
I think the way they went about it was just icky. But I do think, I've watched a lot more TV dramas than you, and that's a classic trope. I think so far what I can say in season 3 as their relationship has progressed, like, finally they addressed the issue because they had dropped the plot. I was like, is Rachel going to go to school? There's other schools besides Harvard. Mike is really getting on my nerves when it comes to this relationship. Like, I am team Rachel 100%.
I mean, I am not a shipper of these two people as a couple.
You like them separately.
Yes, I don't think they work well together, and I don't think in a realistic world that they would stay together.
I don't think she's the problem, though, in the
Oh,
relationship.
no, I don't think she's the problem at all.
I think
Mike's
it's
the
him.
problem. Yes.
Like, he's not being now, and then he always comes around at the very end. But, like, I want her to yell at him a little bit more.
Yeah, but he comes around only after, like, when we get into an argument, when you and I get into an argument, and we argue for an hour about a thing, and then finally I come around to your side and apologize, that's what Mike's doing here. He's coming around eventually. He's taken the entire episode to come around to what he did wrong and fess up to it and be a reasonable human being. And so his character growth is he needs to get to a point where if he says something stupid to her, he goes, "Oh, that was stupid."
He's very insecure
yeah,
and not very supportive. So that, like, he gets on my nerves from that perspective. I feel like Suits is very similar to the Vampire Diaries when it comes to Harvey and Mike. They're like the Damon, even though they're not like brothers biologically, they're like the Damon and Stefan of Vampire Diaries. Harvey is Damon, the one that seems like he's emotionally closed off, but really has such a caring heart, but is more of like the baddie. And then Mike is so much more like Stefan. And it's just every time I watch this show, I'm like, man, this is like Vampire Diaries, but like lawyers.
You know what show I would watch? I would watch
A show about
a
lawyers.
vampire lawyers show.
They probably
They're
already
lawyers
made one.
and they're vampires. And they're solving vampire cases.
I'm sure probably one exists at some point.
Oh, no, they're vampires, but nobody knows they're vampires, and so the people they kill to drink blood, they are then trying to make it, like, point the finger at other people to solve those murders to keep the finger off of themselves. Write it down.
Unfortunately, I feel like the vampire craze for TV shows has died out since then. I need to know from real lawyers that are listening, is this how lawyers are? Because they make every case about themselves, which I guess is part of the show. I feel like the guy that plays Harvey like does such a great job of saying some of the cheesy lines. They're like, Harvey, look out this window and say this line without like, I would laugh if I had to say something.
I almost asked you this the other night while we were watching, but I decided not to because I wanted to hear what you think on the podcast for the first time.
Okay.
Sometimes when he smiles, if you painted him up like the Joker, he has that just little thing right in the corner of his mouth. He would really be able to pull off that crazy Joker smile.
I think he has a cute smile.
Next time you watch it, just see there's just a little curve there in the end. In the Joker makeup, he would look really menacing.
I think anybody would look menacing in the Joker makeup.
I wouldn't. My beard would be all
I'm very
messy with
excited
makeup.
for the Joker movie in October, though.
Yes, same.
That looks good. That's a good way to end Suits. Talk about a DC movie.
Sure. Anything else on Suits?
I think that's about it for now. I'm just looking forward to the ride.
And I'm looking forward to, I'm trying to think of the name of my vampire lawyer show. I'll come up with one for next week.
Our Suits Our Suits first time watch continued in episode 67 called Trash Pandas. Sorry I couldn't get through that without screwing up because I don't know why we would name an episode Trash Pandas.
All right. And with that out of the way, let's talk about Suits. So we have finished season 3. We've started season 4. I have a lot of notes.
You have a lot of notes?
Written down on Suits. So,
my main note is Mike Ross sucks.
Okay. Do you want to start with that?
Oh my gosh. So Mike is one of the, like, he and Harvey are like the main characters. Like the two mains. Because I feel say Lewis is a side character. Rachel's a side character. So Mike has gotten progressively more and more annoying to me as the seasons have gone on. Now, before I watched Suits, I always read stuff. They're like, oh, how people thought Rachel was annoying. I disagree. In fact, I think that Rachel, like, and Mike together can be a little annoying, but I wish Rachel would give Mike some more crap because he does not always treat her the best. And he's one of those characters that he almost reminds me, in a way, of Brandon Walsh from Beverly Hills 90210. So overly self-righteous and pompous, yet he is half the time the problem and the issue. And this is when I say that, which I don't think you've come up with your name for your vampire lawyer show yet.
Oh, shoot, I didn't.
Why Mike is more Stephanie, because Stefan would do the same crap on the Vampire Diaries, and we all liked, most of us, if you had the right opinion, ended up preferring Damon, who I would say Harvey's more Damon-like, who you think he's like the bad one, but he's really is a very good person and is trying. And just Mike is just, he's gotten so much more annoying, and it's not getting better with season 4. So we finished season 3. Spoiler alert for a show that's, decades old at this point. Well, at least a decade old. Mike does the right thing, takes a job, as an investment banker. So he's kind of out of it. Like there's not the thing, because, Mike's not a real lawyer. We don't have that hanging over our head. But now he's off in season 4 and he's like a client of Pearson Spector. And so he and Harvey are kind of at odds. And I feel like Mike just really wants to beat Harvey. I don't know. At first it was kind of funny, the beginning of season 4, because it seemed like they were enjoying being at odds. But now it's getting a little personal. And I know Harvey is not perfect. he's taken some things personal as well. But I feel like ultimately Harvey's done that more in a way to try to protect Mike. I don't know. Mike just gets on my nerves. What is your show notes? Because I feel like it's kind of in line.
Well, I'll tee off and just say I don't like Mike. I haven't liked Mike as a character probably a lot longer than you have. I
liked him in season 1.
I don't like him. If I understand how this show evolves, eventually he may not be on every episode, and I won't mind that.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way. I will not mind that.
We're ready for Meghan Markle and Prince Harry to start dating.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm ready for that to happen so that I don't have to look at Mike. And I understand it's odd because when I first started watching the show, you could not have imagined this show without the Harvey-Mike dynamic.
You said that.
Yeah, I told you that. But the more he has just become this awful character that I just cannot stand, the more I'm like, you know what I could get on board with? Lewis and Harvey going at each other all the time. Harvey and Jessica's the drama between them.
Donna.
Harvey and Donna.
I even like which obviously she won't be on the show because we know for a fact that Meghan Markle's not on every seasons because she marries Prince Harry in real life. So that actress will not be making any other appearances. I do believe that the Mike Ross character does stay, but maybe not in a full-time capacity, just from little nuggets that I possibly know about the show without spoiling it too much for myself. But I like Rachel and Harvey have barely had any scenes this entire series until about season 4.
Yeah.
I like their scenes together, not like romantically at all, of course not. It's just Mike is just that type of character that, and I know it's part of the show, like they want him to be the moral compass, but at what but he's not.
I just don't think he is.
It's coming across as like he's still screwing up, and then it's just and it's just like it makes me so mad. I'm like using hand gestures right now to communicate how irritated I am. But Harvey, I feel like does care for Mike very much, and Mike just sometimes like he never wants to give Harvey the benefit of the doubt, which really ticks me off. And even where at the end of season 3, the whole conundrum with Mike realizes, that like he's hit his ceiling.
Yeah.
He's not a real lawyer. He's not going to get in the magazines. He'll never get his name on the door that's so important to these people. And I'm just like, you just now came to that conclusion, you dummy. And Harvey basically told him at one point, you either need to go to like a small town.
Yeah.
Practice law there or get another job. And then when he is presented with this opportunity, like everybody's like, Rachel's like, oh, absolutely, you should take it. Because if I'm Rachel, I feel like this whole weight is hanging over my relationship, especially since my daddy is a lawyer himself. And even Harvey, who doesn't want to see Mike go selfishly, because I think considers Mike as almost like a little brother, a close friend, as basically like, yeah, if you want to move up, you got to take this job. The only one that I would say that was kind of giving Mike guff about it was Donna.
Yeah.
And that is probably the one time Donna's annoyed me in the entire series, because Donna, her main flaw is she is so loyal to Harvey, almost to a fault. Because anybody that knows, like, and it's better for everybody at that law firm, because they would all get in trouble.
Everybody that knows is on the line for that, which is basically
would all get in trouble if
the
Mike
leadership
was found
of the firm, which means the firm goes down.
Now Lewis never actually found out about Mike like we thought was going to happen.
Will.
I think he will. They kind of put that off on the back burner for a little bit. But yeah, I agree. Mike is just an annoying character. Whereas Lewis, who we thought was going to annoy us most, Lewis is my favorite character now. I'm going to throw it out there.
So do you want to be more annoyed? Because my next note that I have is simply Michael Phelps.
Yes. So Daniel and I are watching an episode of season 3. And I said, that's Michael Phelps. And Daniel pauses the TV, turns to me, gives me like a dressing down about it. He's like, you are just sick right now, because I have obviously, I've been very tired because I have not felt very good. And he's like, that's not Michael Phelps. Why would Michael Phelps be on the show? And I said, well, they were talking about Beijing, like the Olympics. And that's so Michael Phelps, and the guy looks like Michael Phelps. And you're like, just because someone mentions Beijing doesn't mean they're talking about Michael Phelps. And go on, Daniel. Was that or was that not Michael Phelps?
It's somebody that looked an awful lot like Michael Phelps.
It was Michael Phelps playing himself as Michael Phelps. I didn't have that on my bingo card. Do you think Michael Jordan will ever show up on the show?
Absolutely not.
They always but they got Michael Phelps.
Okay.
Suits is the show
where all the actors from every show I've seen in my life show up on. And they even made like a meta reference with Dana Scott, as we know, Scotty, Harvey's girlfriend for season 3-ish.
Yeah, it seems like they just kind of threw that together.
Like she
I don't know.
decides to like join the firm and like Harvey pays her buy-in. I felt like this was Harvey being like Frasier, where Frasier wanted to commit to commitment and just like double down on this relationship. It was never going to work out. But she plays a teacher on Mad Men that Don Draper obviously hooked up with. And they made like a Mad Men reference on Suits because they were like drinking in the morning. And they're like, oh, well, they do it on Mad Men. And it was a scene she was in. Do you think that was intentional? Because I feel like that was probably around the same
Yeah,
time
probably. I'm
period
sure
that
it was. I'm sure it
actress
was.
did Mad Men. She's going to go in a time machine soon, though, for Timeless.
Speaking of girlfriends, what about Lewis's girlfriend? I had that as a note as well.
That actress shows up on every single show I've ever seen in my life. Every single show. She's in Frasier as a young person. I think she was in an episode of Sister Sister, a show I used to watch in the 90s. Let's see here. She's in Lucifer, kind of a big-time character on Lucifer. She's in The Hangover. She's the one that was Stu dated in the first movie that did a, what is it? Somebody on a waiter on a Carnival cruise ship.
He was a bartender.
And that little girl up there, that's somebody's daughter. But anyway, she showed up on Goosebumps, the show on Disney Plus. I watched that actress, didn't she show up like in everything?
You've named quite a few things.
I feel like she was in something else we recently saw. But I actually wanted her and Lewis to work it out and have lots of cats.
Yeah, I
She's gonna give
agree.
up Harvard for him.
Do you think she's gone
No,
forever? I don't think she is.
I don't think she is either. I think though, because she obviously didn't leave her job at Harvard,
Yeah.
even though now they're breaking the we only hire from Harvard rule for Rachel.
Yeah.
They bent that a little bit. I'm sure they'll still have a working relationship. Basically, the thing that stopped them was Lewis wanted kids, and that's like kind of a hard no for her. But that brings us to our season 4. Do you think she'll be in the same scene as a Metadel from Lucifer? Because those two have an angel human baby together on the show called Lucifer. It's like we're getting the Suits. It's got all the people from all the shows.
Yeah, I don't know that they'll be in a scene together. I do, there was a part of me, and I don't think they're going to do it, that was really hoping that character and Lewis would end up actually becoming friends.
Me too.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Stupid Jessica.
But I kind of would. I'm waiting. I don't know. I'm waiting for Lewis to actually get recognition and people and not just be a heel to everybody all the time. Like I'm really waiting for him to actually get the opportunity for people to respect him and to him have his kind of like real big moment where he saves everybody.
too.
And I think it's going to happen. I think they are leading us there, but I'm getting a little by the point we're at in season 4, I'm starting to get fatigued of it to a certain
I'm
extent.
feeling frustrated like Lewis.
I'm ready for him to have his moment. I'm hoping that with this SEC storyline they're working on now, that's in his alley, that's where we're going with that.
I do think that Harvey, while he gets irritated by Lewis, I do think that Harvey genuinely does like Lewis. Like, when he was going to be Lewis's best man, like, Harvey seemed excited.
Yeah.
I just think right now Harvey's got a lot going on with Mike. He's taking all that stuff personally. And, yeah, Harvey's definitely not... When we say we don't like Mike, that doesn't mean we think Harvey's perfect.
No.
Harvey's definitely done some stuff that's out of line, too. It just Harvey's more, like, upfront about... Harvey doesn't try to act like he's the moral compass.
Correct.
Ultimately, the best end game for Mike would be to go be a small town lawyer and do like a lot of pro bono cases and like work. And he's not cut out for this world, whether it's an investment banker, being a fake lawyer, what have you. So back to Lewis. When we first started talking about Suits, you and I were both like, ugh. And I say he's my favorite character on the show.
Oh, he's the
now.
best character on the show.
So you agree?
Yeah,
He's your favorite.
Yeah.
As well. And we want happy. And I want it to be Pearson Spector lit.
Yes, exactly.
You just got lit up.
And Katrina. Is that
Is that
Katrina?
his associate?
She brought him a card with that on it, and I think that was winking to things that are going to happen in the future. But yeah, they've got a lot
He
of.
just wants his due. He
Yeah.
wants respect. That's all he wants. And I love how he keeps calling Harvey his friend.
His best friend.
His best friend. It's just so cute. I love all the Donna Lewis scenes as well. Because you can tell that like while they mess with him, they do genuinely care about him. Because he did have a health scare at the end of season 3, and they were all concerned about Lewis.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I have one more Suits question before we move on for you.
Oh gosh, I know where you're going with
I
this.
brought it up last week about an observation I made about Harvey Specter, the actor that plays him, and his smile, referencing the Joker from the Batman series. Now, let me ask you, after that, you watched an episode. What do you think?
Where's Rachel? Yes, he's got the dimples that if you put the makeup on him, he could be very Joker-like. I cannot unsee it now. And then, of course, so now we've got, we have Rachel, we have Harvey, but like Joker, not Harvey Dent.
I mean, there's lots of iterations of the Joker,
I feel like Lewis gives penguin energy.
Jack Nicholson's Joker was kind of the gangster, and Heath Ledger's Joker was kind of just the maniac.
Jared Leto, Hot Topic.
Yeah, and so I think Harvey Specter Joker could be like the lawyer Joker. I think that would be a really
What about
interesting
Lewis,
direction to go.
Lewis give penguin energy?
Oh, for sure. Without a question.
Mike Ross, Harvey Dent. Mike Ross.
I think in this situation, Mike has to be Batman, which makes him even
Yeah.
more hateable.
I feel like Jessica's more Batman than Mike.
No.
How do you feel about her? She kind of went dark on season 3, but I think they're pulling her back to be a little more likable in season 4.
They are. I think they realized they made her a little unlikable in season 3, and so they're trying to move that back. They're doing an okay job right now, but we'll see if they get into any more shady dealings. So
just come on, Prince Harry, come in and take these characters off the show.
come on. We continued forward in episode 68. You were able to pull yourself away from Bridgerton just long enough to talk about Suits in that carriage scene. Here we are. We are on to, we have seen the conclusion of season 4 of Suits and have started a little bit of season 5. And I think I speak for everybody when I say that whatever happened in season 4 up to the point doesn't matter until Lewis finds out about Mike.
Yes.
I don't remember anything that happened in season 4. And then Lewis finds out about Mike's secret.
Well, we had Mike working as the investment banker.
Yeah, and then he comes back.
Lewis actually helps get Mike's job back. It's Lewis that hires him back. And then Lewis, we think, is going to get fired, so he resigns because of the whole SEC plot. But like you said, none of that is meaningless.
Right. Well, we don't care about it.
until Lewis finds out. And I got to give credit. We've criticized some of the writing on the show. I've got to give credit where credit's due. That scene, it was great.
The way Lewis sussed out that Mike didn't go to Harvard.
Excellent writing.
Was very good.
And when you and I realized it at the basic, I went, and then like you put it together too at the same time before they said it, there was this focus on this key because Mike is going over to Lewis's house.
He's
helping him clean stuff, bringing him off of stuff, and Mike makes a comment about it, and Lewis just kind of brushes it off because Lewis thought, Lewis thought that Mike was kidding.
Yeah, Mike's comment in particular, and this is an important detail, is what's this key about? You ever going to tell me the story about this key?
And Lewis was like, okay, you're joking around with me. Then Mike asks about it again and kind of pushes on it. And that's where Lewis knows. Because that key was if you graduated, what was it, magna cum laude or summa cum laude, you would get that key. And on Mike's, faux transcripts from Harvard, because again, Mike did not actually go to Harvard. For those of you that are new here, we've already said this. And that just is part of it. Like Daniel and I have had this conversation about how you can fake everything. You can fake the transcripts. You can fake the grades. You can fake the diploma. But there's certain intricacies about a place, like the pizza episode in season 1, where Lewis is like, no, you get the pizza, blah, blah, blah. That's like really good.
Right.
Like the whole professor, how he never gives anybody like higher than an A- or something, that they do meet, and we have seen again. I think in the 5th season we've seen him again. But that key, that would be just one of those things that how would you know that unless you went there and did your homework? I don't know why Harvey, who did go there, maybe Harvey did Harvey graduate summa cum laude? I don't know. And the way they did that whole reveal, so we think Lewis they're trying to get him another job somewhere else, possibly in Boston, to be with Sheila, his ex-fiancée. She's like, you know what, Lewis, she said what I felt like I would have been the same way, like, you're just deciding to move here because you don't have anywhere else to go, whereas that's not necessarily true, because originally, before the whole resignation thing happened, he was going to have his whole work schedule adjusted, and then he uses his favor with Jessica to bring back Mike. Well, now she has a big favor. So enter Pearson Specter Lit.
Yep.
because Lewis knows about Mike. And I'm going to say, I feel like of all the reactions, Lewis is the way I would expect. It would have been out of character for Lewis to not react the way
I agree.
he did.
You have to suspend your disbelief a little bit because for the most part on this show, a lot of these people's first instinct should have been to report him to the bar.
Report it, because all their jobs are on the line.
Because all their jobs are on the line. But you're right. Like, Lewis has the most realistic response. He uses it to try and leverage himself in successfully to get his name on the name of the company. He's mad, and he spends multiple episodes being
angry,
absolutely angry, and taking it out on everybody around him. Yes, very mean.
But it's very much in character because Lewis, his whole thing, he's so proud to be from Harvard. He takes it very seriously. He's proud to work where he is. The one thing I would say, again, if this wasn't a show, I could have seen Lewis being like, okay, drop your non-compete clause that you're giving me, get me a job with these other firms, and I won't speak of this again. But the other part of Lewis, he's always wanted respect. He's wanted his name on the door. So, of course, it works better with the show to use that as leverage. And the Lewis's rage makes so much sense to me. Like, Lewis goes for the jugular.
Yeah.
Like, he is mean to everyone. And that's because Lewis feels like not only was this secret kept from him, he feels like everybody was in on it. It feeds right into his insecurities that no one trusts Lewis, no one respects Lewis. And Lewis constantly, he's like, basically what he says to Donnie is like, so you guys have just been making fun of me the whole time about this, laughing about me behind my back, knowing this huge secret. And Lewis is ticked. And he's perhaps the most mean to Rachel, which is like, I felt like he has always had this like kind of big brother, little sister thing with Rachel, and he's always been protective of her. And he is hitting people where it hurts. Their insecurities, Rachel's biggest insecurity, that she's not good enough. She wasn't good enough to get into Harvard. He's coming at her for that. He's like, I feel like he's coming at Donna. Like, he and Harvey have always had this banter back and forth on this seesaw, and they still have it. But Lewis is mad. But it can be really difficult as a human being to keep up just so much anger and rage. And I'm glad the episode they had where they finally kind of had Lewis come back around. He gets back with Donna first because he's like, okay, well, I want you to tell me a secret that, you know, only like that no one else would know. Have you like, what did he ask about? Like, have you ever hooked up with Harvey?
Yeah.
And she says once, which was revealed. And that's sort of how he gets Donna back in. And then Donna basically tells him, like, you know what, Lewis, you're going to have to join the team or not. And he has conversations with Jessica. He lies for Jessica again.
Mm-hmm.
They call him Jeff on the show. What do we call him?
Amenadale. Jeff.
We're not calling him Jeff, an easy name. We're going to refer to him as Amenadale from Lucifer. Thank you very much. We're going to use a more difficult name.
It took me so long to even understand when they said Jeff who they were referring to.
Yeah, because we're like, Amenadale? So we just think maybe we're the only people that probably think that's funny.
Yeah, probably.
It's just part of our humor.
Oh, well.
I'm glad, though, that they brought Lewis back in, and we know, and one of the ways they reined Lewis in, too, before he was nice to everybody, was like, listen, people find out about Mike, you're on the line, too.
Yeah, he is. Because
ultimately, all their careers are on
because
line.
he used it as leverage instead of turning it in. Now he's on the line, too. And so that's how Jessica was able to kind of contractually rein him in a little bit, was to basically be like, listen, if you go out and start blurbing, we all go down. So now you have to keep the secret, too.
And that's why she originally wanted to keep the secret from Amenadale/Jeff.
Correct.
And had Lewis say that the reason how he became partner was because he blackmailed her for the stuff that Daniel Hardman did, which was like 2 seasons ago. And then that all ultimately blows up in Jessica's face later because Amenadale finds out.
Yeah, he gets Lewis drunk Lewis can't keep his trap shut about
things. And I was really
things.
wanting those two to be friends. But that guy's probably, do you think he's going to show up again?
I don't think he ever shows up. No, I think he's gone.
I don't think
so that was
either.
a season 1
which was
thing.
Unfortunate. What do you think about Lewis's just anger? I think it's right in character.
It was right in character. It was realistic.
If anyone, he's the one that reacted the most realistic.
Yeah, I agree. Certainly, Rachel didn't react realistically the way I.
She was mad, but yes, we know you're at the indecent scene.
Do we want to talk very briefly about the sudden influx of even more Lucifer actors?
Yes.
Like Amenadale exits and immediately
enter the OG Cylon, Trisha Heffler from Battlestar Galactica. She's playing another lawyer. What is her name? Like Evan something.
Yeah,
so her first
Evan.
name's like Evan. And she's like, she was Lucifer's mother. And
Yeah.
Emmetida, Lucifer and Emetida's mother and God's wife.
You-
Go watch Lucifer if this sounds wacky to you. And I recognized her before you did.
Yeah, you did. You as soon as she spoke,
went,
you didn't
"Here's
even
my
see
girl."
her. You didn't even see her.
I
As
heard
soon
her
as she
voice.
spoke, you were like, you knew who it was.
Absolutely. She's a very attractive woman.
I'm not going to argue with you on that one.
And I was like, no, yeah, I feel like there's Suits, as we've talked, is the show where every actor shows
Yeah.
up from everything. But now we've had 3 people from Lucifer. And then what's also interesting is all the Game of Thrones people that have shown up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then now they
And
make
they
Game
make
of
a
Thrones references.
reference. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and then so now the drama. I do have 2 notes from the episodes that I take that you like tell me. Hey, write that down.
Oh, so
You're
I
like
don't
write that
forget.
down. Franklin and Bash.
Yeah, they made in season 4 a Franklin and Bash joke. They're like, "Who do you guys think you are, Franklin and Bash?" And that's because before we first started watching Suits, you were confused and thinking that's what I was trying to get you to watch.
And then the other one, and this was from last night. Coates. We finally found winter in New York.
Yes. Suits has been taking the Sex in the City route of perpetual summer, spring. And I'm like, it seems like it's never cold there, but they finally were wearing coats. So apparently I had enough to write that down. I'm surprised I didn't have you write down the guy part of the SEC plot who I feel like plays a villain in everything I've ever seen him in.
Yeah, he's kind of a not villain necessarily.
Yeah, no, but now he's not.
Yeah. Then and I know you don't want to talk about this very much because you're ready for this storyline to just end and be over. But we did kind of end season 4 and start season 5 with Donna has left Harvey as his secretary and gone to Lewis, and the drama that's unfolding there. And I agree with you, to be honest. It's not necessarily from my perspective. It's not necessarily me just really wanting Donna and Harvey to get together.
I do.
But it's more of I don't like the storyline. It's annoying, and
It's making me dislike Harvey.
yeah, it's really making Harvey just like, yeah.
I think what happens at the end of season 4, Donna did some shady stuff she shouldn't have. They had to get her out of it, and then she and Harvey have just a moment. And obviously we know they have a past, they've hooked up, but they've always remained very close, so close. One of Donna's biggest character flaws is that I feel like her loyalty to Harvey is almost to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a moment, some stuff comes out where admissions, and Donna basically admitted her feelings on the table. Harvey pretty much said that he loved her, but shut it down again. And I think Donna for herself is like, I can't work like this with you anymore. I can't be your secretary because my emotions are compromised at this point. So she is going to work with Lewis, which I think is going to be a fun dynamic. And Harvey has another secretary. And what were you saying while we were running? You were like, this could be the storyline where Harvey sees that, another secretary can do the same stuff Donna does.
Well, they pointed that,
but isn't going to replace Donna.
Yeah, they made a very specific. I think as a writer, it was very specific that they pointed out the competency of his new secretary by her saying, yeah, any good secretary would do what I just did. And I think the look on Harvey's face is he's starting to come to this realization that it wasn't about Donna being this amazing secretary. It was that it's this person in his life that he can't live without. Yeah. It's his person, not his secretary.
I think though,
And he's starting to the disconnect for him is he's starting to realize that secretary Donna and person Donna, he had them like conflated into one person
to a point where he shut down any emotional connection
Correct.
at all. Even though
and they're two different people, and so I think that's the wedge they're going to use to get him to realize. I'm making very crude hand motions right now. That's the wedge they're going to use to start to pull that apart for that relationship. I don't know how long it's going to take them to get there, but I think they will get there.
I think they're going to have some little sprinklings of spoilers that I do know. I think we might be in for a long roller coastery wait with those two. So I think they might not to get into the next show we're going to talk about later, but I think they might Nick and Jessica it temporarily and put a little bow on it and have them be cordial again. I don't know if she'll be his secretary again or not. Oh, and we never got to meet Norma, Lewis's secretary.
We never did.
Passes away.
R.I.P. Norma.
And that's one of the reasons why Donna becomes Lewis's secretary. And of course, we have Lewis and Harvey arguing again. Those two are just quite the seesaw. I think it's just their thing, but I'm getting tired of it because when they have moments together of friendship, I cherish it. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. Those are the best parts of the show, and they're few and far between.
And Mike, we actually both found ourselves defending Mike at one point, which
It made me sick.
Yeah, because that was where Donna was not working for Harvey, and Harvey was having Rachel do some of his work, and Mike said, like, hey, don't let him, make you do the secretary work. And we were both like, oh my gosh, we both agree with Mike. Oh, and Mike and Rachel are engaged.
They are.
But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I was like, they're just throwing this in to give them some drama. They seem to be good now. The Lewis finding out was what we'd all been waiting for. I think that we still have, in terms of who's going to find it, they're always going to have the secret of Mike.
Sure, absolutely.
I think Rachel's dad could still, who seems to be
I think
chill with him getting married.
Yeah, I think that one could be the big one they're gearing up for next.
How do you feel about the prenup? I think if I was a super wealthy person, that'd be the first thing I'd do. And I think that's
I understand
but every time the shows always complain about it.
I understand why you would want one, and I also understand why you would be offended by it.
Yeah, I get it.
I get it on both sides.
I get it on
And
both sides.
I've never been
sorry, I'm not rich
wealthy
enough to give you a prenup.
to have to even consider it. So
Yeah.
I guess that's yay.
I just feel like shows always do that. But like her dad right now seems like he's kind of chill with Mike, but I think that could be our next. I think like it hasn't been the classic trope of you're not good enough for my daughter thing.
Yeah.
Like so many shows do. But if her dad catches wind that Mike's a fraud, I mean, But do you want to talk about the flashbacks that you hate so much?
I hate them. They're awful. They do a terrible job, and they always pigeonhole Mike in some way that is completely unnecessary. And they bring Trevor back just because, and it has nothing to the plot or the story.
Other than to emphasize that Mike's been lying forever?
Other than, to make him a liar for longer. So, I don't know. I don't know what else I want to say about that.
I want to reference Fallout. The Fallout medical thing with the syringe. I have to give myself a metaphorical syringe before I watch every episode of Suits, because ultimately I know in real life, like, the Mike thing would bring everybody down, and like that's the whole like bit of the show, like he's a fraud, this is what he's doing. So I have to just give myself the syringe and then move forward and watch the show. What about you?
Yeah, same.
All right, moving right along, our Suits conversation continued in episode 69. Magneto was right, and he was right.
Well, with that out of the way, here we are. We're watching Suits. We've finished season 5. We're on to season 6, a.k.a. Prison Mike.
Prison Mike. That's right. Our
I hate
pal
it.
Mike Ross finally has been caught for being the big fraud that he is. I will say season 5 mid-season finale was probably the best of the finales or mid-season finales that Suits had done.
I agree. It was the culmination of all the seasons to that point, where what happened is they finished up their storyline, and then right there at the end, everything's good, and then the feds show up to arrest Mike, and it's before the thing he's actually been doing illegally.
And you thought, because Mike had finally made the choice, he's like, I can't really go on with my life knowing that I'm a fraud. Like, it just doesn't. I'm never going to be able to feel good about myself, so I'm going to put in my resignation. You think things are good, and then they show up, and it was more one of those things where we're like, okay, we have to watch the next episode. So we have moved on at the end of season 5 too. Mike decides that he's going to go ahead and take the deal and go for 2 years for prison, and then of course we find out that he could have gotten out of it.
Yeah, the jury was going to find him innocent.
And I believe that the way they described it, because Harvey did something which I don't think you're supposed to do, track down like the leader of the jury people.
Yeah.
What's that called? Like the foreman or something. Yep. And he was like, yeah, we know he's a fraud. He's like, but we have to show that the legal system still works. And that lawyer committed, like we showed her, she did so many things you're not supposed to do as a lawyer. And he's like, we needed to show that you can't do that the system still stands. So that did make sense. The writing and like how they would have, even though they knew he was a fraud, how he would have gotten out of that. So he and Rachel ultimately don't end up getting married. I like the dress that she had on in their wedding that didn't happen. I actually liked it better than the dress that I saw her wear for her real wedding that I watched on TV to Prince Harry. I'm like, I've already seen you get married, Rachel Zane / Meghan Markle. So they didn't get married. I think that was the right choice, though. ultimately for them to not get married because it felt like they were only rushing it because
Yeah.
they knew he was going to prison. Her dad knows. Basically, everybody knows now. It's left the law firm in disarray. So enter season 6, and we've got
Prison
Mike. The Prison Mike era. And
I
I'm
hate
about
it.
sick of it.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be done with Prison Mike. I'm ready for Harvey to get him out of there. So you said you had a lot of notes.
I have a
on
lot
on the Prison
of
Mike era.
They're into season 5 and season 6. I've got notes. The first one, call father-in-law dad. I think one point Mike is trying to call Robert Zane dad, and I'm like,
Ew.
don't
Yeah,
do
we
that.
didn't like that.
His name's Robert.
Yeah.
Also note, and this has really been something we've been calling out for a while now, but we've just only wrote it down this last time because it's just gotten so ridiculous. Nobody locks their computer screens at Pearson Spectre Lit.
They never lock them, and it drives us both crazy. Think of all the sensitive information they have on there.
Yeah.
Lock your computer screen. It's not hard.
No. Another computer related one is I'm not sure what kind of, I mean, we've met the IT guy at this firm before.
Yes.
But some people have Dells, some people have Macs, and if you've worked in corporate America for any amount of time, that's not how that works.
And why does Jessica have the Dell?
Yeah.
And then associates have Macs?
Unless you're bringing in your own stuff and they're allowing that, which I severely doubt they're allowing because, again, of the sensitivity of the information on those computers.
Or Daniel and I are huge losers and the only people that notice this.
That could also be the case. Here's a good one. This one's kind of ramping up to the end of season 5, but does holy water help aging?
So I forgot about this. So right before Mike decides, and this is the season 5 mid-season finale. So before Mike decides he's ultimately going to resign, we have a flashback that actually works for Mike because it's about Mike. They're not shoehorning him in to Harvey's flashback. So instead of casting actual teenagers and young people for Mike and Harvey in this, they're like, y'all just gonna play yourselves. So they did give the Mike the emo hair.
That's my next note. Flashback emo Mike.
Yeah, with the emo hair. And then the priest at his Catholic school he went to, or the church they went to. And then in present day, the priest looks literally the same. And I believe it was me.
It was you.
I said, does holy water stop you from aging?
I don't think they're just back there taking shots of the holy water.
I don't know what they're doing.
Right.
But I'm and I guess sometimes when you're a kid, because his grandma looked the same in the flashbacks too, is that you remember people looking a certain way.
That is actually a very interesting way to think about it, because if the writers are suggesting that this flashback is through the eyes of the person, is essentially them thinking about things that have happened in the past, you're right. You don't really, the way memory works, if I think today, if I think about a childhood memory, I see my mother as the last time I saw her today.
Yeah.
And so essentially she's an old lady because she is an old lady now.
That makes sense.
So that kind of makes sense a little bit, I think. Yeah. All right. I have to kind of get myself prepared for this next note because I have to make sure I say it correctly. Because I'm afraid.
Okay, so at one point when they were talking about, I think it was just Mike and Rachel talking, right?
Yeah.
Was it even talking about prison yet, or just about their lives?
I think it was about prison.
And she's like, "What are you scared of?" And Mike just did the Sylvester Stallone, because I'm afraid. And Daniel and I,
it was a deadpan serious scene, and we just both cracked up laughing.
we had to pause the TV, and we're still laughing about it. It was, and the way they quote movies so much in this show, it's just the fact that
I feel
they
like
did
it leads
that.
to it. I feel okay. My final note, and again, I'm sorry, everybody, if you're all tired of hearing me say this. I have a travel sin.
Okay.
All right. The final scene, it was at the end of the last episode of season 5, where
the
Mike
finale.
is going to take the deal, and Harvey finds out, and he takes off sprinting
Oh,
to
he
catch
finds out
Mike.
that Mike was going to be not guilty.
Yeah, because he's going to try and stop him. Harvey's going to fall on the sword for him.
Yeah.
And Rachel finds out, and she's on the way over there. So Harvey, you see this scene. It's this, to music scene. Harvey is sprinting through New
his
York
suit.
City in his suit, knocking people out of the way. He runs up the steps to get there instead because the elevator's taking too long. He gets in there just in time to find out that Mike has taken the deal, and there's nothing he can do about it. And Mike walks away, and as soon as Harvey turns around, there's Rachel. They both started from the same point.
We didn't see Rachel run.
And how did she get there so almost It didn't make any sense to me. Travel sin. I'm sorry. I don't do it to be popular, but it's a travel sin.
I feel like we are ramping up to the ultimate exit because we know that Meghan Markle retires from acting in real life, is no longer going to be on the show. And in my opinion, once we can get Prison Mike out of there, they kind of brought this up a little bit at the end of season 5 and with Rachel now. Like, you're going to have to stand in front of like an ethics thing with the bar. Everyone's going to know that you were married to this or are going to be married to this fraud. That's always going to be hanging over their heads if they stay in New York City. So I think that we are starting to put the seeds for the exit to come. I don't know. One of my biggest complaints right now about Suits is I feel almost, and they have temporarily held it off for a little bit, but season 5 and season 4 too, it was like whiplash with Harvey and Lewis. Like, and I get that's their thing. They are friends. They like each other. They respect each other, but they're always going to argue. Harvey's always going to get under Lewis's skin and vice versa. Lewis is always going to overreact. Whatever. I don't need it every 30 seconds.
No,
it's
got
like
a bit.
Whiplash. Like,
it got a bit much in season 5, and so they've slowed it down a little bit in season 6.
Is Sheila no more, by the way? Because Lewis is all about some architect woman now.
No, she's gone.
I
think that was the end. Like the Mike thing, that was it.
For her, because she was like, I thought maybe someday we'd be back together. But when she found out that Lewis knew,
that's it.
Because she didn't think he knew the way he was. So when she's like, wait a minute, you knew, and he's like, you don't know him like I know him. So I guess we'll see. I'm excited. Suits it's still good. I agree with you. I'm ready for the Prison Mike era to end. Then I don't know how you work Mike back in, but I'm tired of that.
For season 6 for me so far, I have been much more interested in what's going on with building the firm back up, and not really interested at all with the Mike in prison stuff.
And we have secrets we don't know about. Like, what did Hardman have on that Jack guy that now Jessica knows?
Yeah, is Hardman coming back? He's still always out there licking
as a foil.
Licking his chops, ready to come back in.
We got to see Trisha Heffler again. She showed up. So we got to see Medidel, or as they call him, Jeff, in the show. Suits is the show where all the actors from all the other shows show up on.
It is. You're right.
Y'all should watch Suits. You really should. Give it a go.
More Suits conversation continued in episode 71. Did The Acolyte ruin Star Wars?
No, it did not.
I think Star Wars ruined The Acolyte. We have also resumed watching Suits. We finished up season 6 and we're started season 7. Mike is back as a lawyer, being just as awful as always.
Did he get out of... I don't remember our last discussion about Suits, so we've already talked about how he's fresh out of the slammer.
Yeah, we talked about that.
If that song existed back then, they would have played that.
but he hadn't become a lawyer yet. They finally, pulled all their evil strings.
He didn't go to school to become a lawyer. He just passed the bar.
The bar by bribery.
Which I guess you can. We looked it up in New York and New Jersey, right?
I don't remember where it was.
We did verify.
It's the Fallout healing syringe.
Yes.
You just got to pump that into your veins in this show.
Well, we did wrap up. She's popped up in some other episodes, but Jessica's storyline.
Yeah.
We wondered why, we had Jessica and Rachel that were helping that inmate for the, what is it? The Project Innocence. Project Innocence.
Yeah, Innocence Project.
He was on death row when he shouldn't have been. And that story, actually, the payoff ended up being it caused Jessica to kind of reassess.
Yes.
Like, she got to really practice being a lawyer again, helping people. And then Jeff, or as we call him, Medidel, he showed up real quick in an episode. And we're like, he's here for a reason. And it caused Jessica to be like, you know what? I've had enough of this whole corporate stuff. This is what I want to do. I don't want to just be, some corporate lawyer, because she had a whole flashback. And she went to Chicago to be with Jeff / Medidel. And we think she's still practicing in Chicago. She referenced that. And she has popped up in a couple episodes since. But can I just say what a hole has been left by Jessica's
I'm
presence.
Surprised by it, but you're right.
We need mommy back.
Because here, the couple times in season 7, she's popped back in and has made those episodes immediately better. And immediately just brought this, that character...
was the glue.
It was the glue.
And it was one of those things where we didn't, love her character, but we didn't, hate her character. She was just there, and she was there for a reason. she was like even if it wasn't always a voice of reason, she was like the mother hen.
Yes.
Because even though they're trying to show it, Harvey and Lewis aren't ready for that. Donna isn't ready.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. Harvey and Lewis is exhausting. It's like we're in season 7 at this point, and it just, where's the character growth?
Rinse,
you can
repeat,
see it
rinse,
a little
repeat.
bit. Like Lewis is
It
going
is
to
a little
therapy.
evolved.
Lewis is going to therapy, and he is trying.
I feel like
But-
he's trying more than Harvey.
Yeah, I'm hoping with Alex that they've brought in that I'm hoping that maybe that's the beginning of trying to actually make
Yes.
some real progress here. But I don't. But you know,
Well,
at the same time,
considering season 7 started off with Harvey hooking up with his therapist, so he had his therapist from season 5, right?
she didn't appear in season 6 at all.
Yeah, I don't think she did at all. And I remember thinking, I was like, I bet they're going to hook up. Then I was like, I'm so glad they didn't hook up because it made it like an actual, how a relationship with the therapist should be. Enter season 7. They hooked up.
Yeah. And he found some
Stupid.
lawyery way about how, I haven't seen you in such amount of time, so I can be your.
It's like a stall pattern with
Yeah.
Harvey and Donna, and I'm just not here for it. Season 6 finally they gave Donna an awful storyline.
It was the worst. It was the absolute worst.
The Donna. Basically an Alexa ripoff. And I think that whole storyline was because Donna wants to be more than a legal secretary. She wants more
Yeah.
of a voice, so she was latching on with that. So I think that's why they used that to be the catalyst.
It was bad, though.
Just wasn't the greatest.
No, it was not good at
Mike
all.
Ross is still awful. But he's dealing with a Mike Ross-like character, though, that he's working with. Because he did get hired at this clinic before
Yeah.
he came back to Pierce Inspector Lit. So what do you think? But Oliver is more like how Mike would be if Mike wouldn't annoy me. But you can tell Mike's getting annoyed with, like, Oliver.
Yeah. I don't know. I at the same time, in both ways, I cannot wait to get rid of Mike on this show, and also can't imagine this show without Mike.
And also, like, Rachel, I think Rachel's a great character when she has her own, like, when
Yes.
they had her, like, in charge of the associates with Rachel at school, Rachel working with, when Rachel and Jessica finally got to work together. It's just, sometimes I feel like they make Rachel such an accessory to Mike, where she, like, her storylines, even with just, like, her and her dad, like, that stands out to me. I have not seen Mike and Rachel's dad. Have we seen them interact since he got out of prison? I don't think so.
No, we have not. Not on screen.
There's certain people like Harvey's nemesis lawyer. I want to see that happen. So I haven't really felt like I've gotten the payoff
Katrina.
on that as much.
Like,
yeah,
she's been on the
Katrina's
show.
reacted to it to other people,
Yeah.
but not to Mike. And I get it. They all respect Mike and everything. I would have just liked to see that. I feel like they bring in Katrina like whenever they need to. They're like, okay, come in
yeah.
here. Lewis was in a relationship with Tara.
Oh, gosh.
Tara. I kept waiting for the shoe to drop with that, for her to be a big old weirdo. And then nothing really materialized. All I see her is she is the actress from a show that I used to watch in the late 90s, early 2000s called Popular. Do you know, Talladega Nights. Hey, driver, drive these.
Yeah.
The blonde. So she was the blonde sister, and this girl was the brunette sister, and they were both on the show called Popular. Huge. I mean, it wasn't huge, but it was on the what used to be called the WB. I watched it all the time, and anytime I see that actress, I think her name's like Carly Pope, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the girl from Popular. So I was very distracted by that the whole time, and I just kept waiting for something. Because let's call it what it is. Let's just be straight up honest here. Lewis was pulling above his
Oh, yeah.
grade there
Big
with that,
time.
with that broad. So I'm like, okay, what's wrong with this woman? And then like they break up because Lewis, then he was mean to her. Like he basically tried to tell her something. He tried to tell her about Mike.
Yeah.
And then because he didn't like her reaction, he just gaslit her and was like, well, I forgave you for being engaged to another man, blah, blah, blah.
And I think she eventually said that it's not the Mike thing is what's
your
causing
reaction.
the problem. It was her reaction. It was his reaction to her reaction
And
that caused the problem. And she's right to that. And
Yeah.
that's something I think,
the character did nothing for me, though. If we
Yeah.
never see her again, I'm cool with it. If I feel like I wish Sheila. I thought Sheila was Lewis's perfect match.
I agree. I don't think it's going to happen.
Me either.
So
I just want Harvey and Lewis to actually go mudding together. That's kind of
not
where
gonna
we are
happen.
on Suits.
yeah.
I look forward to each episode we watch. Each episode, Mike Ross annoys me. I think the hole that Jessica has left has been huge. I don't know what they're going to do with when Mike and Rachel ultimately leave. I do think right now it's giving me, I'm going to compare it to a show that has nothing to do with this. Remember The Flash?
Yeah.
The Crisis? We've finally gotten over the hump. Everybody knew about Mike.
Yeah.
Mike's past the bar. Now I feel like we're just in this hold pattern, and they're coming up with just like dumb things to be the next thing. So I don't know where they go from here, but it's a good filler show.
We had this conversation a couple episodes ago about hate watching things, and I'm feeling like this is slowly becoming, the last couple seasons of this show are going to slowly tread into hate watch territory.
They've really had to pull the plug on Harvey Donna stuff. It got ramped up.
Oh, yeah.
Now we've had to pull back from it. I feel like they are rewinding some of Harvey's character growth a little bit this season.
Character growth? Nobody has character growth in this show.
I would say Lewis has grown a little bit.
A little
like,
bit.
He's
a little bit.
He
but then
reverts back.
But every time he gets mad, he's abusing the associates or yelling at Harvey.
It's probably more realistic, honestly.
It
Maybe that's why
probably is.
we
I don't know.
I don't know.
Suits continued and marched right along in episode 73. Yes, Chef, again.
And we are into season 7 of Suits, and
I thought we were 8.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We're into season 8 of Suits, and I just have to say that I didn't think the worst character on the show leaving would make the show worse.
Say it. Say you miss him. Say it. Say it. Say it. Say it.
I miss Mike Ross.
I miss Mike Ross, too, and I miss Rachel, who was a good character.
I miss Rachel more than Mike, but yes.
I miss Rachel more than Mike, too. But Mike was the heart of the show. And
Absolutely. He was, yes.
They're trying to find their footing in season 8, and they'll even have Harvey kind of act like Mike at times. Donna will act like Mike, and I'm like, I just want Mike back.
Just get Mike back.
I did not love their send-off.
No, that was weird.
Because it was clearly a setup for the Pearson spinoff with Jessica, which I love Jessica.
Yes.
So that's fine. But for two major characters, especially Mike Ross being one of them, I felt like they were secondary, like, to the plot. And that annoyed me. And I didn't get enough time. But their wedding was very beautiful. I liked, I've got to see Meghan Markle get married twice on TV now. That's pretty cool. A fake wedding and a real wedding. But the show is the Mike and Harvey, the dynamic is the show. Now, I do like that Rachel's dad is a regular now.
Although he hasn't been in the last few episodes.
He has joined the firm a little bit. He's like now the managing partner.
He's managing partner. It's now Zane Spector Lit.
Yes. Lewis and Sheila are back together. I'm excited about it. Okay, so would you rather have Lewis with boring, no personality woman?
No, I wouldn't. But I feel very much like after that relationship ended with the whole Mike, the revelations that Mike wasn't a lawyer and that relationship ended, I feel very much like since they've had interactions since then, I haven't liked it.
Her character feels a little different.
She feels different.
She was always a wild woman.
Yes.
And kind of like nutty like that, but they kind of made her, and they backed that off a little bit in the most recent episodes, though, and kind of said why she was acting like that. But yeah, I'm just not sure what they're doing there.
And in the last episode, they were concentrating on the relationship we actually care about, which is Harvey and Lewis.
And that was probably my favorite episode so far of season.
Yeah,
8.
I agree. That's the best one so
Lewis
far.
is like, we are in a relationship. I thought that was funny.
Even though I got you over here rooting for a cheating storyline.
Why would you call me out like that?
You were sitting on the couch. You were basically like now Kith to those two characters.
Craig Manning from Degrassi. I don't know what his name is in the show. Do we?
Brian.
Brian. Yes, that's what it is. And Katrina Bennett. Finally, it took me like 7 seasons to like Katrina. Or I don't remember when we were introduced to her. They have really good chemistry, and I wish he wasn't married and that they could kiss. But I don't think that's what they're gonna do. But I do think Katrina has a crush on him.
I think the last episode we watched,
I think she might get her heart broken, and it's gonna be embarrassing.
Well, I think it very much kind of closed the door on that.
Yeah,
and has left it as she's realized,
he's
this guy
nice
is
and
nice and a friend, and I don't have a lot of those, so I should probably hold on to that.
Oh my gosh. She's like a Taylor Townsend from the OC. Like, a guy's nice to her, and she's like, I love you.
Everything's not about the OC.
But what if it is? Anyway, Suits. Katherine Heigl's on it now.
I knew she showed up on Suits. I just didn't realize she was the Mike replacement.
You kept telling me she did,
Ever
and I was
since
like,
season
when?
one, I've been like, when is Katherine Heigl showing up? And it just feels to me like Izzy Stevens is pretending to be a lawyer. She's a little meaner than
I don't
Izzy.
remember too much of Grey's.
I
but
like her character on
understand it.
Suits, but I really
yeah.
like Katherine Heigl, so I think she's going to knock any role she does out of the park. So.
Yeah, I don't dislike the character. It's just, it's not the chemistry and the mix that we're used to for
We
this
miss
show.
Mike.
And yeah, it's Mike. He's missing, and it shows. And I hate to say it, but I know you've told me he'll show back up at some
I
point,
think he does.
and I'll be excited when he shows up because it'll feel like Suits again. It feels like a different show almost.
It does. It really feels like it almost reminds me of when the Vampire Diaries, when Elena left. It reminds me a little bit of, not quite as bad as this, but do you remember that? Like, I don't even consider it the last season of Scrubs because like JD and Elliot
Yeah.
were only like the first episode. So at least we still have a lot of our mains. It just,
I'll throw you out there. The main one, when Michael left the office.
yeah. Like I could barely even watch The Office
Yeah,
anymore.
that's what it feels like. Like such an integral character has left, and it's just like, how do you? They struggled the rest of the run of that show to plug that hole.
You went from being like, okay, when is Mike leaving to he needs to come back.
He still annoys me. But he is an important part of the chemistry of what made the show Suits reasonably tolerable for entertainment.
Agreed.
We had a little bit of a retro throwback for episode 74, Yellow Wendy's, reminiscing about the great days of Yellow Wendy's cups, and also talking about Suits. All right. After that, we have continued our journey into Suits land.
Yes.
We finished season 8 and jumped into season 9. I'm going to take my headphones off so that she doesn't blow my eardrums out. Go ahead and talk about Harvey and Donna.
Finally. I can't imagine watching the show in real time if I had to wait that long. I had seen some spoilery clips before, so I kind of assumed, like, and I'm pretty sure I'd actually seen a clip of, like, their love scene that they had in the season 8 finale before. I just wasn't sure what it was in reference to. If it, like, what, where of it. Finally, Harvey and Donna, after all this time, Harvey finally woke up, came to his senses, realized all along what's been in front of him all this time, and he and Donna, and it was hot. It was so, their hookup was so much better than Mike and Rachel's. Like, it just felt like we waited so long for it to really happen in real time. I felt like the chemistry was off the charts. It was very well earned. What did you think of it?
Between Star
If
Wars,
you say it was fine, I'm coming over
between
there.
Star Wars and this episode of the Suits, you had yourself a week.
I did. What did you think of their?
It's a good thing.
If you say it was fine, I'm going to come rip your headphones off. What did you think of the long-awaited Harvey and Donna finally are together?
It was okay.
Is okay better than fine? I don't remember.
You know, that's not why I don't watch the shows for the shipping. You understand that, right?
Well, I do, and it was wonderful, and I loved it. I think season 8 felt kind of weird.
Yeah. No Mike.
Because no Mike was weird. I think Katherine Heigl is a good addition. We lost Robert at the end of season 8. I loved Robert.
Yeah, and it seemed abrupt. So I don't know.
But they did do what I wanted them to do. Final boss, bring back in Daniel
Sure.
Hartman.
Yeah, they did that.
They did that. That's good. I think Mike's got to show up in season 9, right? At some point.
If you said he shows up again after his departure, then yeah.
I need to know the time. They're working with some weird time on Suits because we have Lewis's, is it his fiancee, Sheila, who is fully showing, and is pregnant with Lewis's child. But we've got the other character, Brian, who I think he's pieced out. He's done. He played Craig Manning on Degrassi. He had a baby, I felt like, seasons ago, and that baby was still like an infant, like a newborn. I'm like, your baby would at least be a toddler by now. What is time on this show? Who knows?
A fair watch is over, as he has left the firm.
Quiet. Why do you say it like that?
Because you were sitting there like just rooting for that relationship.
I was not, but they did have good scenes, and it was very disappointing. They should have had him like separated so he and Katrina could have been together. That would have been nice. It just made me feel bad. I hope they get. I don't know, like with one season left to go, is Katrina gonna get any other
I don't know.
character stuff? Because like she's kind of left on a sad note.
But the thing, I will say Suits is is a show that gets 16 to 18 episodes regularly, and they're they're 40-minute episodes. I feel like if they wanted to give her a satisfying end game relationship, they could probably pull something off, but they would have needed to start already, and so far what we've seen in season 9 they haven't, so I don't know that I anticipate that happening.
Maybe she and Katherine Heigl could be together. Two little blonde, well, one tall blonde, one little blonde.
I mean, that wouldn't be terrible.
Katherine Heigl's character, like if Donna wasn't going to be with Harvey, I was like, they should just put her with Samantha, because I felt like those two had good chemistry. I don't think Donna had good chemistry with that guy that was just a placeholder until Harvey came to his senses. I was like,
Thomas?
boring Thomas. Boring, lazy.
That seemed like a perfectly suitable gentleman. He was nice.
They had no chemistry, no heat, no
Was
passion.
principled. He was a small business owner. Probably a medium business size business owner.
It was never going to work out. He was like Donnie with Nat, Daphne, and Niles. Just a character, a roadblock in the way, if you will. I don't know how Suits is going to wrap up their storyline. I used to think like, man, Mike's the reason for all their troubles. This crap's been going on. These law firms, they're like, I would be more of a Mike Ross type lawyer. I think I'd want to help people. Like they all care about their names being on the wall. It's very stressful to me.
Yeah, I would have a really hard time.
Do you think we'll see Jessica again?
I don't know.
Louis got to get married, right? At some point, his wedding's going to happen. That'd be a way to get Mike back and then be like, Rachel, she got held up, in England, working on something and can't, because we always.
Do you think when
Meghan
Mike
Markle's
comes
coming
back, they wink and nod to that? They make a joke. They do some sort
like
of
they
joke about
would.
why she's not there, and then try and mix that in.
There's stuff in the show notes that I feel like you don't have with you. We've got to address the cussing now.
Yeah, they suddenly,
doing it a
and
lot.
this has been a couple seasons now.
Yeah,
for the last
F-bombs.
couple seasons, suddenly they can just say the F word.
So you're
whenever
allowed to
they
say that
want
on USA Network? I guess you
me.
can on FX, right? Like, what are the standards for that? I don't know. I know, like, FX you can cuss on, right?
I have no idea what shows
Isn't
you can
The Bear
or cannot.
technically through FX?
Yeah,
And they cuss on that.
maybe so. I don't know. Maybe they changed the rules.
There were some Rocky references
Yeah.
that I really liked.
Well, one of the episodes at the end of season 8 was called Rocky 8.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Anything that you've written down, I feel like I told you, I was like, write this
I
down.
have the F word, which we addressed already. Windows.
Windows.
No idea what we're trying to say there.
Oh, they're always having a bunch of windows open on their computers. They never lock their computers. I think we complained about
We've
that
talked
before.
about that, yeah. I don't know. It's weird to me that they all have laptops.
Security is bad at these law firms. Like half the time they'll be having a private conversation and the guy they're talking about they'll turn around and he's like
Waltzes
right
in
at
the
the
door.
door. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I would beef up my security
What's
a little
funny
bit.
is they had a storyline not that long ago where somebody signed in the guest book, so it proved that they were there.
Yeah.
But then no one's ever signing in the guest book. It's not like they don't even have one at the law firm.
My rising stars for these last couple seasons of Suits, Gretchen. Love Gretchen. Anything Gretchen's in.
Gretchen is the final note that I have in my notes here.
Protect Gretchen at all costs. And Lewis's therapist. I really like him. Dr. Lipschitz.
Yes,
That's
he's
his name,
good. He's
right?
a good character. I like him. He seems to me like, honestly, one of the better representations of a therapist
Agree.
on TV.
Harvey's therapist was not.
Harvey's therapist was not, but Dr. Lipschitz really does, to me, feel like a very accurate description of a.
And
of
I
a
hope that
therapist.
man gets paid well for putting up with Louis Litt. Louis Litt's a great character to watch on TV, but I don't think a lot of us would enjoy to be around somebody like that
Correct.
in
Absolutely.
the real world. So how much do you miss Mike still? I still miss Mike a lot.
It's a hole in the show for sure.
I do like that they made... Obviously, Katherine Heigl was Mike's replacement as a full-time cast member.
Yes.
I like that they made Samantha Wheeler almost like the anti-Mike.
To a certain extent, they did. That's what they,
They
did.
really
Yes.
did. Like,
yeah.
I think she
It's
and Louis have good
interesting,
scenes.
but I do still feel like, honestly, like a lot of the other characters
heart
on the
is
show were
gone.
already anti-Mikes. So
Yeah.
bringing in her as an extreme
She's
version of
basically a
that
female Harvey.
still didn't really do them
You
a whole
know?
lot because they don't have anybody trying to provide that moral compass
Do
that
you
Mike
agree,
did.
though?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
She's like the female Harvey.
I think they've even pointed that out on the show.
I think, yeah, and probably the most recent episode that we did. I'm really excited. I like the way season 9 has started. That now that Harvey and Dawn are together, I was a little worried they would be a little like too lovey-dovey, and they were still having their like normal dynamic.
Right.
The Harvey Donna dynamic. Things I want to see. I want to know what the can opener is. They haven't referenced that since season 1. Obviously, I want Mike to come back, and I'm pretty sure he does. And I do want to see Lewis happy with his baby and Sheila. I enjoy that. I'd like Harvey and Donna to get married. I don't know if we're gonna have time to shoehorn in all
You think
these
the last
weddings.
episode
I'd
we'll
like
get
Jessica to
we'll
come
get
back.
one of your favorite things, a time jump montage?
I love a good time jump montage. I don't know if Suits is the type of show
I
that
don't
does
know.
that.
I don't know if
they
they sure-
certainly like to give us flashes.
So they do a lot of flashbacks.
With a yellow filter. Anyway, if y'all haven't watched Suits, go watch Suits. I'm really glad that I guess Netflix just added season 9, like literally over the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Because if I had watched that Harvey Donna finally getting together and I had to wait, I'd have been mad.
You'd just gone on YouTube.
I guess I could have done that.
Okay, so it looks like we wrapped up our Suits conversation with many things and twisters and finales. So that's probably why we entitled that episode.
Episode 75.
Episode 75. I don't usually do the voiceovers. Can you tell?
Yes. And with that, we finished another show.
We did! But now I am empty.
So we finished Suits.
We started Suits in April before my birthday. We started Suits. Go back and check out the episode Birthday Suits if you want to hear how the journey began. And I feel that emptiness and sadness when you finish a show that you've been watching. It was just a good filler show to watch when we didn't have things going on. They're not like, not every episode is like, I think they're usually about 16 episodes per season, which is a good amount for a drama. 9 seasons, right? Yeah, it's 9.
9. Yeah, it was 9
seasons of content. I feel like the last time I struck gold like that was when we got into Modern Family, and I had I had a lot of seasons of that, even though it was
they had
just
11.
comedy. And they were like 20-some episodes. And that's what I'm looking for. A lot of these streaming shows are great, but I don't tend to go back and rewatch them.
No.
Unless it's Bridgerton, which I've watched like 50 times because I love it. Yeah, it was, I feel like Suits finale checked all my boxes that I asked for in a finale. It was as good as it could have been. It wasn't over the top. It had some feel-good moments. Characters grew.
Mike Ross came back.
Mike Ross was back, and I think they ended that show as best they could have done with what they had. So basically, Mike Ross does come back for the last couple episodes of season 9, and of course he comes back arguing with Harvey, which I always feel like Harvey kind of likes it. So we got to get I don't even know if we talked about season 9 the last time, because I think the last time we talked about Suits was the end of season 8. Harvey and Donna finally kissed. So we got this woman from Star Trek that shows up, the blonde lady from Star Trek The Next Generation. Her name is Faye.
Tasha
on
Yar.
Suits.
She played Tasha Yar on Next
Her
Generation.
name in real life is Denise
Crosby.
Crosby. I was supposed to say Denise Richards.
I pointed her out immediately, but it took you a second.
Oh, because she has aged quite
30
significantly
years.
since I
30
saw her
years.
hooking up with Data on Star Trek The Next Generation. That's all I remembered what her character did. I was like, she's the one that hooked up with Data. Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
But she played like an awful villain. She was like the final boss. It wasn't Daniel Hardman.
No.
I guess that thing was played out. They didn't want to bring him back. And honestly, though, if the bar was going to send somebody in, because she's basically from the bar, to kind of babysit the firm, they should have done that a long time ago. There's been all kind of crazy crap happening here. But whatever. So she's kind of like the background villain. And then Mike Ross shows up. So she's still sort of there, messing around with stuff. And, like, obviously, I think when he showed up, she used that as an opportunity to continue to pit people against each other.
Yes.
But ultimately, my gang of, lawyers and Donna from Suits come together. They form a plan to defeat this awful woman. They let Mike in on it. And I'm not going to get into the plot heaviness of how all that went down, but I thought it was very satisfying. I was a little irritated that they made Mike and Harvey kind of fight again, but I don't think it really bugs Harvey as much as it ever bugs Mike, because Harvey just loves, I think next to Donna, Harvey loves Mike more than anybody else.
Yeah, well,
he loves Mike.
well, and the part of the plan that none of them had prepared for was the thing that Harvey needed the most for his character growth finally, which was, at the end of the day, to finally get her to go away, all the stuff they did, plus Harvey had to resign from the firm.
He had to let it go, move on with the next part of his life. He's in a good place with Donna. And I do think Harvey working with Mike and Mike always wanting to do all those like pro bono cases. I think that did change Harvey
Yeah,
a little
I think
bit.
it did, for sure.
softened him, and he kind of had a moment very similar to when Jessica left, where he wanted the work that he was doing to matter, and I think he knew what he had to do to save the firm. And he and Donna were in a good place. He knew like Lewis is still Lewis, but I really liked Lewis's character growth.
Yes.
Lewis grew a lot, but even Lewis says to his therapist at the end, he's like, we still have a lot of ways to go, and I thought that was a good recognition.
I think Lewis
for him.
maybe is the most realistic vision of what a changed person looks like.
Yes.
Because he is still himself.
But he can
is
revert
still
back.
Lewis. He can still revert back to the old
But he knows
ways,
how to cope and
he can trip it
process
up,
better.
but he's better at processing at it, and he's more able to see like when he makes a mistake, he is also able to realize he made a mistake
Yes.
and not get caught up in his own ego about I was right and
Absolutely.
everything. So I think it was a really good, like I said, I thought that the way they did therapy with him, not the other therapist
Not with
that Harvey had, but his therapist and the
His
interactions
Dr.
they
Lipschitz.
had was, in my opinion, as somebody who is in therapy, one of the most realistic versions of therapy that I have seen
Absolutely.
on television.
And so Harvey knew like that Lewis was in a place that he could run the firm, and that we've got Samantha Wheeler, we've got Alex. He knew that they were going to be okay, and he and Donna are together, they're committed, ready to take that next step. And I loved it that Harvey and Donna are going out to work with Mike and Rachel
In Seattle.
Maybe Frasier and Niles Crane are around. And Mike's going to be Harvey's boss.
Yes.
Which I thought was funny. And because obviously Meghan Markle could not come on the show, I felt like they handled her character well. They did as best they could without being able to show Rachel. They had this moment where, because obviously Lewis is getting ready to be a father, where they had Mike give Lewis a gift from Rachel. It was like you just got lit up or something, or
Yeah.
lit up on, like spit up on, a little onesie. Because I always really liked Lewis's kind of connection they had with Rachel. I felt like as the seasons went later on, they kind of gave us more of Lewis and Donna's friendship, but originally like Lewis and Rachel, because they
Yeah.
connected about like the ballet and stuff, and I felt that was a good way to honor that. And I thought they worked in her absence as best they could. Robert wasn't around in season 9 as much because he kind of fell on the sword in season 8, but he does come back. And I think the only thing is Jessica's the only one that really didn't come back at the end.
Yeah.
And that finale, but hopefully she and Jeff / Meadowdale are doing well wherever they are in Chicago still. Hopefully, I don't think I plan to watch Pearson. It had one season.
No, it just had
So
one season.
I'm hoping
so.
everything went well there. Lewis became a father.
Yes.
He and Sheila got married, and as you know, a last minute wedding would happen. Her water breaks, so they go to have the baby Lewis, a little girl, or Lucy, a little girl. Which I think, Lewis as a girl dad will be really fun. And Harvey and Donna are like, oh, let's get married now. And we'll do it again later in front of our family and friends. And I thought that was another way to be, because there's no way if they had planned that wedding that
Yeah.
Rachel wouldn't be there.
Well, even Lewis's wedding was like they
Last
just
minute,
decided
yeah.
to do it last minute
And
because
that's how
he wanted
you-
to be married
yeah.
before they had the baby. So that's kind of how they explain why Rachel
Justified
wasn't
by
able to be out
Rachel.
there in time.
Yeah. And I was very glad that Harvey and Donna got married and that they're going to go work with Mike and Rachel. And I thought that Mike had a funny moment, like when Harvey and Donna were getting married, because at first I was like, what if they have Mike Ross officiate? And he's like, I'm not going to get another fake license or something. They made a joke about that. A little callback. And it ended on a good note. It ended with like the new firm, and they even made the joke like, hey, we're not going to change the name for a while. You thought Lewis was going to be a little upset at first with Harvey and Donna leaving, but then he realizes that they're always going to be connected and that he's ready for that next step. And we had happiness. It wasn't over the top though. And it just worked. It was a nice series finale.
They said they weren't going to change the name again for 4 years, but that was before but they did put Katrina's name on the door.
Yes. I feel like we could have had more for Katrina if we had more seasons, because
Yeah.
they were finally starting to progress her character, but who knows. Apparently, I was finally able to dive into all the Suits stuff after I finished. Suits LA, it's going to be obviously set in LA. They've already cast some of it. The guy from Arrow, Stephen Amell, is going to be one of the leads. And I know that the guy that plays Mike Ross has said he's down to show up, maybe cause him some trouble. So maybe we'll see Katrina. Maybe she'll show up too. You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
But I think that basically the people that did Suits were excited by how well Suits did on Netflix that they wanted to get on it. I think you and I will watch the first episode of Suits LA, but it's not going to be the same.
No, it'll be interesting to see, like, are they going to try and copycat the story, or are they going to try and buck the trend? There's really only two ways you can go there. So I don't know. Yeah, like I enjoyed this. I don't know that I'm not super excited for a new show with basically an entire new cast of characters, knowing a cameo might pop in here or there, but whatever.
So Mike Ross, do you still concede that he's annoying, or were you happy when he showed up, or both?
Both. He's annoying. I'm happy, but the show is better when he's on it.
Yes, it works. I think that Mike and Harvey have one of the best relationships, and then Harvey and Lewis. So who ended up being your favorite character from Suits?
Probably Lewis.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Even though Lewis is annoying, and I think it'd be hard to be friends with a Lewis in real life.
Absolutely, yes.
What about the episode before where they had Lewis pretend to be Harvey and Red Foreman showed up?
Lewis had some of, over the course of the entirety of the show, Lewis had some of the best moments in the show and some of the most ridiculous moments in the show.
The worst moment in the show for me was not Lewis, though. It was the Donna.
Oh, yeah. That was the worst storyline.
And apparently Reddit agrees, because obviously I jumped into the Suits Reddit afterwards, and everyone's like, could we name a worse story than that? But as a whole, very satisfied. I think you guys, even though we've kind of spoiled it for you, you should go watch Suits. Give it if you're looking for something to watch while you eat dinner, a nice filler show, give it a go. I think I'm a little annoyed we never saw that Tanner lawyer again. But I can see him on Hallmark Christmas movies, I guess. He shows up in a few of those.
Maybe he'll show up as an antagonist on the new Suits.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at The Real Hobo Dan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.